Hey guys, Justa guy here. Today we're going to try to do a build video of this monstrosity, or not exactly the specific one, but the modules to make it. I apologize in advance. I find build videos to be the hardest videos to record in a quick and concise manner. But as you can see, I went through a lot of iterations of this particular build. But this is the basics, right? It is, what? Oops. Oh, this one right here. 5 TNT, 4 up top, and then 1 in the middle. That's why they're so tall. They all fire individually. Oops, I shouldn't have touched that. Oh well. Individually while they go, and then they can be tiled endlessly, horizontally or vertically, or length or width, right? So I can have 2 set by set, back. And this is basically what they look like at the bottom. You have these gaps right here, and this is where the TNT comes out, more or less the middle. But because they're TNT dupers and not dispensers, there's a bit more randomness to it. Sometimes they're in this block, sometimes they're in this block, and sometimes they're halfway between the two. So you need a 3 wide gap for TNT dupers. And then there's a 1 wide gap right here you can't really do anything about. And then it repeats. You can do this particular style where there's 4 in the middle and then 2 sort of satellite ones on the outside, or this is the one I use the most. Just easier to build. It's 3, a gap, and then 2. That gives you the 5. This one, I don't know. I just find the 2 satellite ones to be less useful. In fact, you'd probably be best with just these 3 put together and then nothing on the side and just a long strip. But I don't know. This is what it looks like. And then you can do what I did over there, which is a solid wall of obsidian, which would be something like 2 blocks out of where you want your dupers. You need obsidian if you do that because anything else would blow up. And the benefits of that is trees don't grow out beyond the range of your TNT. Or you can do something like this where there's an 8 block gap between where the TNT drops and the wall for the most part in all directions. And then you can use anything, even glass if you want, or nothing at all. And I did that over here, and it seems to be nothing falls out the edges. So there's 8 blocks to the sides, and then 8 blocks to each direction. And it allows the items to fall when the water falls in all directions. And this is basically the center of it. From here to here is how wide it is. And then it goes exactly... 3 of these will fit in one, 15 wide block. If you have water down the middle here, it goes 7 blocks to both sides. And it'll fall off onto these platforms on either side. I find this to be one of the best, medium-sized builds. If you go bigger, the waterways and all that get way more complicated. But you can really realistically do it as big as you want. This particular side could be expanded lengthwise as much as you want. It wouldn't affect the water at all. Here's what the finished product looks like. Let me just push this button here. If you space out the dirt by 3 blocks each, you get something like this. You get about 12, I think, singles. My tick rate's up super high, that's why they all grew that fast. And then, just like before, you can turn it on over here, and it goes between blowing up and flushing water. As you can see, it's just a bunch of stuff. Metal trapdoors with redstone on top. I used redstone lamps just so I could see them light up in case there's a fault in the redstone when I was placing it. You don't necessarily have to use redstone lamps. I don't think anything that conducts redstone would work. But it's quite long. It's like a 3-minute delay between each one. But this will blow it all up. The water carries it to the edges. There's some fancy sign work and waterways to push it all over here into this chest. And then down the middle, you do have to have a hopper line, as far as I can figure. Because this is where all the water source blocks, and if an item happens to fall straight down, it'll just get stuck there. If you put ice down here instead of hoppers, it helps a little bit if they have a little bit of momentum and they hit an edge. But still, if they fall straight down, they'll get stuck. And once one gets stuck, they'll stack up and collect a lot of items. So it's easier just to have a hopper line feed this way. If you can't afford the hopper line, you don't have that much iron, you can get away without it, like I said, but you'll have more losses. This is what I did for the first run of all 2x2 jungle trees. I didn't get very many saplings like you never do, but you get quite a bit of wood. And this is my first run of oak saplings of the single. So you get way more than you need. You could also just put a solid block. And I turned that on, didn't I? Oh, it did blow up at least once. But there's the flushing. As you can see, none of the items fall at the sides. So this is, I'd probably say, the easier one to build. The solid wall of obsidian is a little bit better because the trees can't grow at the edges. Some of the bigger trees, like the jungles or dark oak or whatever, can get a little bit uncontrolled. But anyways, back to these. So each one of these little things. Alright guys, let's try to get this to the build part. So, it is 13 wide from this end to this end. If you just go by the very edge of the tubes. It does hang over by 2 on either side. But if it's tileable, if you want to put more on there like this side to side. I'm not sure what happened over here. But this particular piece is shared, just like in the middle here. So it takes 15 total blocks side to side if you want to tile it, or 17 I think it is, if not. And then you only need 1 redstone tower per side here that feeds to the flushing part. So if you tile this, you don't need to do this where there's 1 at everything. You just need 1 at the front and it sends the signal all the way down. It is 19 blocks tall from this block all the way up to here. And then it's an additional 5 to 6 for the redstone from here to there for the feed tape and all that. It's about 5 if you only do it to this height. It's 6 if for whatever reason you have to go up and around and wrap. Because the feed tape can change depending on how many of these you have and how big your system is and how complicated it has to be. You want a 1 glap from where the flushing floor is if you're having a flushing floor. So this block right here, you want to have that. I'll put it back. Oops. And then start the floor basically where the bedrock is, because you need to have a space beneath this right here, the redstone, to have redstone down here on top of your redstone lamps, if you're using redstone lamps to power the iron trap doors. You want this, the very bottom, to be 23 to 30 blocks from the platform. So basically it would be 23 blocks to this bedrock here. Oops. If you did that. You can adjust it how high you have it, but the max delay will blow up the tube. So if you have all these set to 4, oops, like that, the TNT generally explodes like right around here, and it will blow up the redstone lamps and redstone dust, even through obsidian. Like, it'll blow up below like the iron trap doors and they will be fine, but for whatever reason the redstone dust and lamps blow up. But yeah, so basically you don't want to do that. That's why you're 20 some blocks up if you can help it. Alright guys, let's get to the building part. So first you want to decide where you want to put it. I'd highly suggest probably building the top end first, and then worrying about the platform and all that later, because it's much easier to move the platform up or down if your math is off a little bit than it is to move the TNT dispensers and all that, obviously. So make sure you always have a little bit more give on the bottom than you think you need, just in case. Because there is a limit, like I said, to how far you can shorten the delay or lengthen the delay. I think about 30 blocks is the furthest it'll fall with this particular system from the bottom to the ground. And then about 23 is the lowest you can shorten the delay to make it decent without blowing up the machine. So here's 3 modules deep with 1 module wide. And this platform works for it. It's about 15 wide on the main platform because it's 1 in the middle, and then it carries out 7 on each side. And then it's 8 from the edge on all sides, so I don't need a wall. If you want to do a wall, it's only about 2 out from the thing right here. 2 empty blocks space, and then you can put your wall up, but it has to be obsidian more or less because the TNT would blow it up. But it does have the advantage of preventing trees from growing way out of the blast radius of your TNT. With this empty area, sometimes the bigger trees like jungle wood or the tall oak or something, or even the birch, not the birch, but the acacia will grow out to the side and the TNT won't be able to destroy it. You'll either have to destroy it yourself, burn it, or just ignore it if you're doing the same type of tree, and it'll just hang there for eternity more or less. But so this is what you got, and then you want to go 23 blocks up for the basic anyway. If you want to go higher, you can, just the timing's a little more different. I find the easiest way is to get a block like scaffolding, put it into 23, and make sure you're in survival, even if you're building creative. And I'd highly suggest building this at least once in creative before you try in survival, because I blew myself up so many times designing this. But you get 23 blocks and you just hold it down like this, and you're done. Easiest way to count up, in my opinion. I mean, you can, use F3 and all that. And I can't remember, but yeah, 1.15 pre-release 1 is what I'm building in, by the way. Everything works, so you need at least some of the snapshots to have the rails face any direction, but other than that, this should work in 1.14 or 1.13 even, maybe. So 23 blocks up, right there is where the redstone lamps start. And then you want to go 2 blocks out, and then this edge is actually down 1. Oh, I don't have any more obsidian. Okay, whatever. 2 blocks out is what I did. I mean, you could theoretically go further with your flushing system. It's not entirely necessary. If you go out too far, though, you have to worry about the items shooting out the side, because they gain momentum while floating. So it should look something like this. 2 blocks out, and then this is too wide for redstone purposes, but otherwise it doesn't matter. Doesn't necessarily have to be obsidian, but if for whatever reason you think your TNT is going to blow up near the top, it makes it much easier. You don't have to worry about your redstone blowing up. And then from here, you want your iron trap doors. You want it on the bottom half, so you can fill it up with water. Oops. And everywhere that you'd put a redstone thing, you put a trap door below it. And then the obsidian around the edge is also there to hold the water in. And as you can see, I sort of started building the corners up a little bit. If you want to make sure you know where the corners are, a falling block like sand helps a lot. Oops. Just drop a block like this, sand or gravel, oops, and you can see where it lands. So as you can see, that is 2 blocks out, and then this one makes 3 from this edge. So I have a 2 block gap on all sides. I'll build this real quick and I'll get right back with you guys. Alright guys, so I got the outer ring done. It only technically has to be 2 wide on 3 sides, the front and either side up to where the redstone ends. But for symmetry's sake, it looks better if you have it on all 3 sides. Before you go crazy, start filling in all these in, it's important to know where your feeder tubes are. Otherwise, you're just going to have to break holes in your water anyway. So, an easy way to do this is if you have the outline at the bottom, you can make this out of dirt blocks or something too if you want. To get the placement done, you can pile up some scaffolding up here to get an idea where to place it. You can do just the key points to get the dimensions right on either side, or you can do every single little pillar if you really want to. So yeah, so I just start there, right? And then it comes out a block. Obviously I wouldn't use a placer block of obsidian in survival, but you want, it's basically just this repeating over 1 block, 3 blocks, 1 block. And you just do it over here too. 1 block, 3 blocks, 1 block, and then this one shares it because these are compact. And it's just like that. And then it does repeat right there. Those blocks are not shared. It would cause so many problems with the slime blocks. You did. And then just out 1 block, down 3 blocks, and then in 1 block. Repeat. Out 1 block, down 3 blocks, and over 1 block. And as you can see, it matches up. If you do at least the either end and it doesn't match up, you know you did something wrong. And then once you get a couple of them, it should be pretty simple to repeat. So yeah, I'm going to do this a couple times and I'll be right back with you guys. Alright guys, should look something like this. You take away the scaffolding, which is always the fun part. Oops. Now, as I always say, I can't break scaffolding today. There we go. Hold scaffolding to break scaffolding. Not all this has to be obsidian. I would say the bottommost 2 or 3 layers should be obsidian, just in case you have an explosion near the top. But other than that, the rest of the tube could probably be cobblestone, or maybe even glass, to be honest, because rarely does it blow up in the tube unless you have a mistake. I also would suggest, this is the bottommost layer. 23 blocks is the redstone lamp, so this would be 22 is where the obsidian is. Coming down at least 1 more layer. You could possibly do 2. It's up to you. Just because tall trees will grow all the way up to like 1 block away from the top of wherever you end your tubes. And if you don't have the second layer down from where your normal tube would end, the trees grow so tall that they grow right up, and when the TNT explodes, it can damage your redstone lamps and redstone, even through blocks. It's kind of weird. But by having this down 1 more, just prevents the growable area of the trees. It prevents that problem. I'll finish the rest of this and be right back. But yeah, guys, this very bottom layer definitely has to be obsidian if you can help it. Otherwise, it might get blown up because the TNT will blow up like within a block of this. So basically, you could just do what I just did, 1 block lower to begin with, or just awkwardly come beneath it like I'm right now. I always forget about this part. Alright guys, so I got my little layer down here done. I put in pretty much all the trapdoors. It goes basically everywhere there isn't anything else. Oops. You want all the way around the sides, all these little alcoves. And then even if you can, you don't necessarily have to, but right here where there's this 2 wide gap, you want these to be there. And it's on the bottom of the top thing, so if you put it there, it should pop up like that if you put another block, if you did it right. If it's on the next one over. So basically all these 2 wide gaps in between. It can be a little hard to get the redstone to work on there, but it helps. So now you just need tons upon tons of water. Basically all these have to be water sources. So you want, get rid of all this. And unfortunately, they don't connect, they don't share. If you just have one flowing over the top of all these, it could theoretically work, but then your redstone would have to be further away. It would be more complicated, and there's a bit more of a delay for the water flowing, to be honest. So yeah, I'd make an infinite water source up here and slowly but surely do all this. If you mess up and you put one up there, it doesn't really cause too much of trouble, but you'll get rid of it when you put the, like that. But the only problem with it being up there is you might not notice when you miss, and it's much harder to go fix it later. But yeah, again, I'll cut away and fill all these in. Alright guys, so it should look something like this. Water basically everywhere you put a trapdoor. If while you're placing it, the water starts coming out the bottom, it generally means you put the trapdoor in the wrong spot. It was on the top block instead of the bottom block of the block above. But yeah, so yeah. If you miss these ones in the middle, it's not the end of the world. They're actually really hard to get the redstone to work. The only way I've gotten it to work is to float over these other ones. But sometimes the TNT explosions destroy it, so eh. But, so we got this, and now it's time for these. All these just go over this. And every single one of these needs a redstone dust. which can be a bit harsh. The flushing part is probably the most expensive part of this whole build. If you don't want to do it, you don't have to. And it doesn't have to be redstone lamps. Like I said, it just makes it much easier to see it. I think any block that conducts redstone will work, but I'm not sure. I haven't really tested it with cobblestone, but I just find it much easier to see what works and what doesn't with lamps. But yeah, if you don't want to do the flushing, you don't have to. It probably only saves 10 to 20% of the sapling and logs and stuff from getting blown up. But like I said, you get such a low return on saplings in general that it's really kind of important to do so. But if you don't want to, you can just build the TNT dupers and blow stuff up, get some returns. But yeah, guys, again, gonna build this up and I'll be right back. Alright, guys, there's the monstrosity of redstone. Sorry for all the jump cuts, by the way, but I'm trying to keep this down. My build videos always are super long. I'm trying to keep this under half an hour if possible. But it should be something like this. The more you build, the more complicated this gets, and to the point where I think that one over there, it's 6 rows back, so it's like 30 TNT dupers total, is about as far as I would take it, because it's one repeater from either side, and they meet in the middle. Anything deeper than 6 would probably be trouble to get the signal all the way to the middle. You could probably do up to 6 widthwise too, though. So I just brought the obsidian for these tubes up one layer, because it's going to come up later anyway, right here, to have the redstone bridge across the gap of these 2-piece ones. I've had a couple cases where the redstone got destroyed if the TNT blew up really close to the surface. But it's happened so rarely, it's hard to justify or stop. So I doubled it up here, even though you only need necessarily one. It should be okay. If for whatever reason they get destroyed and this middle stops, these 2 middle ones stop flushing, it's not the end of the world. It's just 2 little blocks. And then it would be something like this. A repeater, redstone block. Like you'd have the signal, coming in from here. And it would come here, feed in, and as you can see, I was a little off center. It works best if you do it still off center. I'm so bad. There we go. It works best if you have this feed down directly down the middle. As you can see, it reaches almost the entire way over. And then you'd just feed this line to each side. This way you'd have these 2 wide. You don't want these to touch, otherwise they'll create an infinite loop. So we just repeat the signal. I'm gonna do it right here. And then somewhere along, say here, you feed it in sideways, and then you just do that on the opposite side. Where did I do it? Right there. And it should complete this one. Now, if you have a bigger build, you'll need more repeaters and more signal strength. But like I said, the limit of the thing of 15 out is really going to be your limiting factor of how big you can make this farm and still have it all flush. Now, if you have that one, you'll also need one on the back side feeding in this way. That's why I said this. The length of this is pretty much the limit, because you can't boost the signal otherwise. But as you can see, all this is flushing, all this water's going. If you come underneath, you should be able to see all the trapdoors are open. If you have redstone lamps, you don't necessarily need that. In fact, let me try cobblestone real quick for you guys who might not want to use redstone lamps, because they are expensive. So, that one's lit up even though there's not redstone right underneath it. The redstone lamps will come on, but I'm not sure about the trapdoors if they're not on every block. So let's block a couple of these. And are these open? Yes, they are. So you can use any block. Like I said, redstone lamps make it much more visible if something is wrong. If there's a dark spot, you know that spot's not working. While if you're just looking from underneath, it's kind of hard to tell with all the water what's on and what's not, unless it's a big obvious chunk. And then when you turn it off, it should shut off. If it continues in an infinite loop, it means you did something like this, and the stuff feeds into itself. So yeah. All right, and now we move on to the tubes. Okay, so this is where it gets kind of complicated. I'm not entirely sure how it was the easiest way to build this in survival. I built this in such a tinker hodgepodge method that it might get complicated with blocks in your way if you build in survival. I usually start from the bottom up. That might cause some problems. But so you want to come up. This is the first block, the first official block of this layer, and you want to come 19 up. Now I would suggest at least this layer and the two beneath it, the first three here, be obsidian if you can, just in case there's an explosion. You don't have to rebuild everything. If you can afford it, I would do it all obsidian. But from here on, you can theoretically use other solid blocks like cobblestone. I would go against glass because that can break for quite a few blocks away. And you can just do something like this for that redstone part. It doesn't seem to matter too much if there's a gap there. The TNT does not get caught because it's been guided for so many blocks, it won't go there. So we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. And you just want to build that up. If you're doing obsidian, I'd probably be a little more careful about your build. In fact, I might even suggest using a placeholder blocks, because it's just easier to build it all up and then cut in the stuff. But if you're using obsidian, obviously you don't want to have to break blocks all the time. This is how I did it. Because a couple blocks up, you start building the drop mechanics and all that. So let me get this up there and I'll show you in a second. Alright guys, so you got all these up, right? 19 from here up. The very first block doesn't count. I used granite to make it really visible. But after that, you go up 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then on the 6th block here, you'll want to make your first little thing. So it's on the side with 3. The back end cuts into the side with 2. So you want to have a little piston set here. So you're going to go up a row like this. And then the blocks you want to push in go right here. Oops. That way when they're retracted, they're here. And then when they're extended, they're over there, blocking off the TNT. And then get rid of these. On this side, you'll want 3 repeaters, all set to 4 tick delay. Now, this particular one is the bottommost TNT dispenser. You really can't adjust it that much. These set to 4 tick delay, if I counted right, of 27 blocks, should blow up just above the ground. Any more reduced delay and they'll be hitting the water all the time. So mess with that as you will. There's really no way you can make the delay longer without extending the machine here, which would mean you would have unable to tile this as much because there'd be more gaps in between, which meant more space. The TNT doesn't work. So you want a note block right here in the front that starts it all. So when this goes, it powers all these, right? Does absolutely nothing right now, right? At the very end, you need a solid block to conduct redstone. I choose green, lime green, because it's visible. And a torch goes on the side here. As you see, it powers out one, but we need all of them. So, some solid blocks, again, go across the top, all the way to over the torch. And then you want redstone across it so that when it's lit, all of them power like that. And then if you pulse that, it goes away and comes back. So, that is the first little catcher for the TNT. The one right here on this tube will fall, hit that, stop, and be good, right? Next, we have to worry about is the stuff down here. Alright guys, so now we're going to do the water part for the first little tube here. You could have done it first, but I don't know, I just did it second. So you want to start with one block up, right here lined up with this in the middle. And then right on the layer above the redstone, you have another layer, comes out 3 blocks, right? On this very first block, you want a redstone torch, then a repeater, 2 redstone dust, and then another repeater. And these repeaters don't need a delay. They're just there to transfer a signal through a solid block. So what will happen is your input's over here. Let me get a thing. Oops. So something like this. Oops. Wow. Right here, I guess, will work. We'll send a signal through there, and then when it stops, it'll go back. So basically, the front of this will be like this, with a repeater facing in to stop this torch, and then it'll send a signal through the block to the next one to stop the torch. It'll be right here and continue the entire time, right, as the same tiles. But each individual module looks like this. You don't really need this whole part if you're only doing one module though, so do what you will. Okay, so for the next part up, you just do one block up. Could be any block really. And then I use the redstone lamp so you can easily see where the power is and where it stops. And then you just want to put redstone dust across this so that this torch will keep all these powered by default. And then you just want to come in here and put down some iron trap doors that when powered are vertical like that. So you want to target that very far block. And then you're going to have to put some kind of block on either side to keep the water in. Like that. And then you just want to put water sources in all these. So now, when you turn this torch off, it should pulse the water down. Now unfortunately these go a little longer than I would like due to all the repeaters. They're the slowest part of the water, but whatever can you do. But then you can just put your blocks back here. I mean, I don't think you necessarily have to, but less of a chance the TNT falls in there for whatever reason. And then same with these, you can put the blocks back here, I forgot. And then over here again you can cover this up. So it should look like this. Basically, this cuts into the sides of these a little bit, but that's your first little module. And then for the rest, it's basically repeating that at a higher altitude. A little less complicated, but yeah. So let's move on. Alright guys, so this is going to be the end of this little episode here. I've decided to cut it up because I've already at 30 minutes or so for this recording as I was editing. So I'm just going to splice this in there and not try to look at what I'm building, but yeah. Catch you the next episode, guys. There should be a link in the description once I've uploaded the second one, and it might go to 3, I'm not quite sure. I'm not even halfway through my clips and I'm at 30 minutes, so we'll see how it goes. But yeah, guys, we got the bottom part done, and hopefully we'll move on to the upper part next episode. Catch you guys later. Just the guy signing off. Bye.